Hurricane Helene can make landfall.
Yeah, we're going to get landfall literally any minute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much right there. Officially, you get it from the Hurricane Center. And it's going to be in Perry. It's going to be the second straight year that we are going to have a massive hurricane. Last year, I believe it was 130. I think it was Cat 4.
So it was, and then they downgraded it to Cat 3 in there.
They brought it back down, yeah. So, I mean, and this one will be Cat 4 with winds of 140 miles an hour. For us, the winds are obviously beginning to taper off from our central and southern counties. It's still windy, but the peak winds, the ones 75, 80 miles an hour, the gusts that we had, are beginning, at least in the southern counties, to wind down, but still really nasty across Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus. But there it is. We still have that extreme wind warning for the purple area. And I'll tell you, Tallahassee is right on the fringe of the western eye wall. And they may look out. I mean, they may be 3-4 miles away from that eye wall. They're still going to get winds of 80 to 100 miles an hour. But within this western eye wall, it's certainly possible those winds could be 120, 130, even 140, because max sustained winds right now are still 140. And this purple air, that is the extreme wind warning with winds of at least 100 miles an hour. So overall, you can see how far this is away. No longer even close to hurricane winds, at least sustained winds. And we never did. We never had sustained hurricane winds. We did see gusts of 75, and even I think the highest I saw was 82 in one area, but still some very heavy rain. We're going to look back at this storm as a massive flood maker. I mean, I'm getting pictures, and folks, a buddy of mine who lives on the Alafaya, he said he's never, ever had water come into his house. Water is coming into his house. I've told you about my in-laws with water 3 feet in their first floor, and they have never flooded before, having lived here for 20 years. So, I mean, we are going to unfortunately see just a plethora of stories. And, you know, it's going to be a little interesting because typically after a hurricane, you know, you send out cameras and there's drones and they show you, you know, the outside damage, the wind damage. In this particular case, a lot of the damage is going to be on the inside. A lot of the damage is going to be homes that the water actually came in. And still, last check, Newport Richey with a gust of 79, Spring Hill, a gust of 79. So closer to the storm, obviously, that's where it's going on. My guess is that Governor DeSantis, who we're about to go to in a little bit, maybe he's waiting to see when landfall. I mean, because it's going to be any minute, so maybe he just wants to wait and say, all right, well, this is when landfall occurred. But southern counties, you see, while it is still windy, it's improving. And as quickly as this storm is moving, and by the way, we do have the new advisory that just came out a couple of minutes ago. I'll show it to you in just a second, but there it is. And as this storm continues to move north, winds of 140 miles an hour, that has not changed. Moving north-northeast at 24, that has not changed. The pressure actually dropped a millibar. So literally, this storm was at its strongest as it made landfall. And that's always the last thing that you want to see. I mean, just look at it. And, you know, you look at the satellite picture, it almost makes me think that there's a little something off with the offset of the base map because, like I said, this looks like it made it inland maybe 20 minutes ago, and it just hasn't. I mean, we're looking at our live radar, and you can see any second. In fact, Jason, I bet if we go on Twitter, X, whatever, if you go on it, it'll say, NHC will probably come out and say, all right, you know, this made landfall because it looks like it really has happened right there. And again, that's between St. Mark's and Perry and very, very close to Perry. Moving north-northeast, there's the updated track. Moving, boy, that track is pretty much due north, isn't it? In fact, it might even be, no, it's pretty much due north. And because it's moving so fast, we expect tropical storm conditions well into northern Georgia, you know, and potentially even into Tennessee. So, as we said, this is going to be, unfortunately, Jason and I were just talking, like, well, I wonder if they're going to retire the name of this. There's no doubt they will. I mean, even if the wind was not extraordinary at 140, which it is, but when you see the kind of storm surge numbers that we have seen and the pictures that we keep getting, former Tampa Mayor Iorio texted me a few minutes ago and showed me some pictures of what's going on in Tampa. And my neighbors, some of my neighbors over closer to the water in Ozona is up above mailboxes. I mean, and it's going from Sarasota, Siesta Key, all the way up to Crystal River. And they haven't even really been experienced a lot of that surge yet in Crystal River. They will shortly, and because they are closer to the eye, closer to the center, those numbers are going to be even higher. Crystal River scares me. I think we're going to start seeing some really a lot of times Crystal River to Cedar Key is just that zone that gets a lot of surge with these storms, and they're kind of used to it, but they're not used to this, because when you see numbers in excess of 10 feet and closer to 12 feet in some cases, that is extraordinary. That is something unprecedented we've never seen before. Power index, we're still getting power outages. I'm still hearing a lot of folks without power across the area. Don't have the exact number. I'm sure Nadine had it, yeah.
Yeah, Tico 98,000 in Tampa, 210,000 in Pinellas County. And let me go down really quick. We got about 42,000 in Sarasota and another 40,000 in Manitou.
You're like 380,000, so you're over a third of a million folks.
You did that math so fast. You are a meteorologist.
Yeah, I'm a numbers guy. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely the thing. So, I mean, you know, you've got over a third of a million people still without power as things will slowly start to improve. So here they are. These are the forecast numbers from midnight through the overnight. You see, we see 20, 25 right through tomorrow. So things are finally, at least in terms of the weather for us, are going to improve dramatically. And we're going to need that help, because there's going to be a lot of cleaning up to do tomorrow. It isn't going to be the kind of cleanup I think a lot of folks are going to see from the outside, but with water going into so many places, it is going to be unprecedented. So again, we're going to toss to Governor DeSantis coming up in just a minute, but let's go on over to Jason real quick and let us see what you're showing, because it looks to me like it's making landfall right now.
Yeah, and I was just looking up exactly where Idalia made landfall, and this could be the exact same spot that Idalia made landfall. Not off by a mile or two, not off by 15 miles or 20 miles. It may be the exact same spot in Taylor County. Just incredible to see that is a possibility. Haven't gotten the update from the National Hurricane Center yet, but like Dennis said, at any point we are going to see a landfall over Taylor County. Watching Tallahassee very closely, because of course they could be very, very close to that western eye wall. And if they are lucky enough, they will avoid the 100+ mile/hour winds, because those would be confined, of course, within the eye wall. And right now that eye wall is going to be just to their southwest by about 15 miles. So it is extremely close to Tallahassee at this point. And those strongest winds are going to be confined basically into this zone right here. That's the closest to Tallahassee right now. Notice the red, yellow, and orange colors over top of them. Clearly, they're well within the hurricane force winds right now. But the strongest winds, if we can get this to jog a little more to the northeast, they may miss that landfall point, or at least the eye wall point, I should say. But there it is. And the spot that showed up as the landfall point from Idalia last year was right here. Right here, and that is potentially the exact same. It's right where the middle of the eye goes onshore is the official landfall point, and this is basically the exact same area that what we were looking at with Idalia last year. Now the difference for us with this system is, of course, Idalia did not produce record storm surge. It did in a couple of spots, but now we're looking at significant storm surge here across a lot of basically the entire coast is seeing record surge. So we got the 2-minute countdown, 2-minute warning to Governor DeSantis. So yeah, I'll hang out here for a little bit. As soon as I get the word, I'll send it over to Governor DeSantis, give you the latest with him. Like Dennis said, probably waiting to get the official on this making landfall. But yes, very, very likely that this will officially make landfall here within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So while we're waiting on Governor DeSantis back here at home, we are significantly improved as far as these bands go that were producing 60 to 70, 80 mile/hour wind gusts. Unfortunately, we're still looking at some 50 mile/hour wind gusts over the last hour or so. And in the Nature Coast, this is where you could still see those hurricane force gusts, because of course you're closer to the center. That's now moving onshore here in Taylor County. So where you see the red, yellow, and orange colors, basically from Hernando and Beverly Hills southwest over to Weeki Wachee, one of the spots that's seeing gusts over 60 miles per hour within the last hour. These bands where those orange colors are, especially along 19, this is where we're looking at some very, very heavy rainfall. Nadine?